You've probably heard the saying that if you could remember the 1960s, you really weren't part of it. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I remember the 1960s quite well. I remember when John F. Kennedy was President of the United States and Jackie Kennedy was our First Lady. I remember when Mercury astronauts were rocket jockeys, shot up into space, and, well, we didn't know if they were going to make it or not. I also remember as a young child being taught in school to hide underneath our desks in case the communists dropped a big one on us. That was going to save us. I also remember November 22nd, 1963, when President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. It was a very scary time in our country, and the entire nation was in mourning. And the younger generation, the baby boomers, the young teenagers, really needed something different in our lives, needed a change, and we got it. On February 9th, 1964, when a member of our television family, Ed Sullivan, introduced the Beatles. It was like our world went from black and white to color overnight. It was like Dorothy leaving Kansas and crash landing into Oz, and our world would never be the same again. Now, by a round of applause, how many of you are Beatles fans? Come on! And this night, on February 9th, 1964, well, you saw it in the beginning film, Ed Sullivan came out and introduced the Beatles. Now, we had never seen anything like that before. 79 days after President Kennedy was assassinated at Dallas was a Sunday night. February 9th, 1964. I sat down with my family to watch the Ed Sullivan Show. It's something we all did. Right? Those of you who've been boomers, every Sunday night, the Ed Sullivan Show. There were only 3 channels. We only had 3 TV channels. I couldn't tell you it was on the other channels. We watched Ed Sullivan. He was part of our television family. It didn't matter who was on, we're going to watch Ed Sullivan. February 9th, 1964, he introduced a group called the Beatles. Yeah, the world changed real fast. After that. That was long hair, rock and roll, bad influence kind of stuff. How many of you were Beatles fans and your parents didn't really approve of it, huh? Yeah, right there, okay. That's what it was, because nobody had hair like that. When the Beatles came over, when they came on the Ed Sullivan Show, it wasn't, of course it was their music. It was their music, but it was their look at the same time. I mean, these 4 guys wore these tight pants, and they had these skinny suits on with the skinny ties. They had pointy boots on with high heels, Cuban heels. And no man had hair like that in 1964 except for Mo from the Three Stooges. Okay? But then we listened to the music. So what happened was when the Beatles came on stage, the police were in front of the stage, they all turned around and watched the show. What's the big deal with these guys? They couldn't see what the big deal was. Well, they couldn't see behind them either that the kids, the sold-out crowd, the kids were climbing over chairs, they were running down the aisles. They had bed sheets tied together. They were coming down from the mezzanine, like, invasion. By the time the police realized what was going on, it was too late. The whole place was out of control. And they stopped the show. And they threw the Beatles off stage. I'm going to show you that. I have filmed that show. But because of that, all rock and roll shows were banned from the city of Cleveland. Now, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland. You figure out the reason he gave her for this was because that was not the way little girls should behave in public. So, and then what happened was there was one more show scheduled in Cleveland Public Hall before the ban took effect, because the contracts were already signed and everything. It was the Rolling Stones. And the deal was with the Beatles, parents in those days, in the early 60s, they could drop their kids off and leave their kids, go to a movie, and everything, come back, pick up their kids, and they'd be safe. Well, after what they called the riot with the Beatles, the parents decided, no, it's not safe for the rock and roll shows, so they were not going to let their kids go see Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones. The whole country started changing. When I talk about this, what happened to the Beatles' effect on American teenagers, it really is like our world went from black and white to color. Do you remember that? Those of you who were around at the time? I'm safe to say that. To me, it was like the movie, The Wizard of Oz. It was like Dorothy leaving Kansas and waking up in Oz. All of a sudden, the movie's in color. That's what happened to us. Attitudes changed. Humor changed. Okay? All of a sudden, we were kind of questioning authority, because that's what the Beatles did. All of a sudden, they didn't conform to anyone else. It's not like they had a dress code they had to conform to. And all the boys, hair got longer, but the girls' skirts got shorter. It was more than just about the music. It was also the emotion stirred by the most influential group in the history of popular music.